Alright, YouTube, what's up? So, I've got limited footage of our Baja race, but I do have some cool stuff with us racing at the end with my Sony camera. We had a full Racekeeper camera system and it ended up not working, which kind of sucked. So, we were supposed to have everything recorded and it just didn't work out. But I do have some. I put up a backup cam just in case when we hopped in and luckily got some footage. So I thought I'd just tell a little story about our race and just getting ready and whatnot and just see how it goes. So late September, my friend Joe Sim owns Turbo Labs. He's a crazy good driver and a really good fabricator and just a genius mechanic. I get a text from him saying that he's going to race the Baja 1000 and he bought a Class 1, which I didn't even know what that was at the time. But anyway, sends me pictures and he just kind of starts him and so he bought it with another guy named Wayne, which ended up Ironmanning the whole Baja 1000 on a dirt bike, which was crazy. That's a whole nother story, but he made it. He finished the race. He timed out, but he finished the race on a dirt bike by himself. It was 1,150 miles, which was crazy. But anyway, so I'm not exactly sure how he knew Wayne, but him and Wayne buy this used Class 1 race buggy that is supposedly race ready, even though they had to change a ton of stuff on it to get it up to Joe's standards. And then he started looking for other people to help out. Another guy named Chris, he pitched in and bought a third of the buggy, and they started getting this thing ready. It's super expensive to do Baja, especially in a Class 1. Everybody that was involved spent a lot of money and time, and just a lot of time away from work. It's quite a financial and time commitment to do the Baja 1000. There's a lot of preparation goes into it. So, I thought Joe was crazy. It's 2.5 months before the race, and I'm like, I'm on the phone with him. He says he's doing it, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna do the Baja 1000, like the hardest desert race in the world, and you got 2.5 months, and you have no clue, what you're doing right now. And he's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And so so that's what he did. He figured it out. So they went through the whole thing. New tires, they changed a bunch of the fabrication on the buggy, put on new brakes, better brakes on it, had the suspension all adjusted, figured out a way to put a second spare tire on it. They did it's called a race pack. It's a digital. He plugged in all these gauges to every monitor in the buggy to this race pack, which is pretty cool. So he just kind of tried to improve it the best he could. This buggy's finished Baja 1000, I think, 3 or 4 times. So it's got a good track record of doing Baja already. So we had a buggy that was pretty race proven already. So yeah, they fix it all up. My other buddy Chris gets involved. And he decides he's going to get 2 full chase trucks ready for this race, which was crazy. Spent a ton of time and money too. Like I said, it's a serious commitment. So he gets 2 full chase trucks ready with spare tires, full sets of tools on both trucks, just like everything you could need on these trucks. It was crazy. He had his good buddy Josh helping him get them all ready. So Chris that got the chase truck, Chris with a K, will say, he asked me to co-drive. He's going to have his brother drive, and his brother wasn't able to make it, so he asked me to co-drive with him, which was really cool. I told the guys all along that I was down with being involved in it, and if they need any help in any way, I would come help. And so he asked me to co-drive, which was sweet, so did that, hoping to get some time in the Class 1. Honestly, they were always working on it, so we never got any pre-run time here in Utah at all. I sat in the buggy one time, literally just sat in the seat to see if I could even, fit and think. and I could, and so we decided we'd figure it out. Started ordering a race suit and gloves and socks, fireproof stuff, and just ordered a few things, and we just kind of winged it, to be honest. So tried to get everything caught up at work so I could take off. And basically everybody's kind of the same situation. They just ordered their stuff, and we just decided that we would go and we would see how it goes. So we left for Ensenada. They should call this the Baja 5000 because you'll spend 4,000 miles in your truck of driving. It was so much driving. So much driving especially down in Baja, California, on some of the worst roads. So just pothole central, just beat to hell roads. Oh my gosh, it was painful. But we head out to Ensenada with the two, Joe and Brandon. Another driver had left a couple nights before us. They went to go and test in Barstow. And to do a bunch of stuff. So they were already down in Ensenada. We were about a day behind them. So we headed out, got to Ensenada the next morning. So we drove through the night and got there the next morning. Ensenada's beautiful, beautiful place right on the ocean. Baja, California is just, man, it's cool. But got to Ensenada. They had gone and done some pre-running the night before, and they were testing out the new brakes they had put on, and they were adjusting the brake bias, and they hit the brake pedal, and the first time they did, they sheared off the the rotors from the rear hubs on the race car. It's like a custom setup, but basically there's this rotor bolted to this aluminum hub, and they put too much pressure on the rear brakes and just sheared them off. So Joe was back there working on that, trying to get the brakes fixed. So he ended up getting them fixed. It was getting pretty late, but he wanted to go and pre-run and test more, and he asked me to come do some pre-running for him. So that night was kind of my first real experience in the Class 1. And it was awesome. It was an awesome opportunity to kind of learn the gauges and learn the nav and just get comfortable in the thing. I was excited to get in it and go for a ride. And that was probably one of the highlights of my race, was just being able to pre-run with Joe. And it was just super fun. Did about 150 miles on the race course that night, and man, it was cool. It was cool. The Class 1 is it's a side-by-side on steroids, and definitely like the mid to high speed stuff, it's just incredible. You're doing 100 miles an hour and it is just flying over stuff, and just, I don't know, you have so much travel, so much wheel travel, and just those king shocks are just unbelievable. The stuff you can go over and how it just is so smooth, and yeah, it's got a ton of horsepower, and just, it's just badass. It's just a badass, hardcore desert machine, but it's expensive, man. It's expensive. So yeah, we run about 150 miles, no problems, no problems at all. It's like one of the first times we haven't had any problems, to be honest. So it was running good. Joe felt like he had it dialed pretty good. Took me back to our we got a little Airbnb. Chris got us an Airbnb in Ensenada, Chris with C, and which was awesome. Really cool place in Ensenada. Went to bed, got up the next morning. We had to head to Loreto. So there was 3 teams of 2 that were racing the car. So we're all doing about 400 miles apiece was the plan. So we decided to get down to Loreto. We wanted to go pre-run with the Mavericks and we needed to be ready. We couldn't, once the car left Ensenada, if we hadn't already left, we would have never caught back up with it. Well, at least not with all the problems we had, we probably would have caught back up with it. But theoretically, if things went well, you couldn't catch the car, so you had to leave early. So we left, headed down to Loretto. Everybody else did like tech inspection and got to hang out for the contingency, which I thought would have been way fun. But basically, they put up a big stage, and all the competitors go up on the stage, do a quick interview, and it's just like a big party right before the race. And yeah, it just looked awesome. So we head down to Loretto, which was like, dude, it was like a 20-hour drive just from Ensenada to Loretto on the worst roads you've ever seen, and just painful, man. The time in the truck was like the worst. There was so much driving in the truck. So we get to Loretto. We're able to, we had internet at our hotel. Loretto is beautiful, by the way. It's on the Sea of Cortez. And it's just this beautiful kind of little resort town that's tougher to get to, so it's kind of still like not that touristy, but it's awesome. So Loretto is beautiful. The race starts, the motorcycles go first, so the bikes all started, and then it goes trophy trucks and then class ones. So they let all the fast guys go first. So you can start tracking it online. It was really fun to track online. You're getting you're getting their coordinates and their speed and their average speed, and I think you had to keep an average speed of like 23 miles an hour to finish in 48 hours. That was your time limit, was 48 hours to finish the race. So doesn't seem like that hard to do, but when you're having problems and you got your car broke down for 5 hours here and 6 hours there, it's harder than you think. So tracking was fun. I remember when the race started, I could not sleep. I stayed up all night just refreshing the tracking and checking on the buggy, and you'd see it stopped and just be like, shit. You didn't know if it was like a driver change or like just a rest or a problem, and communications were so tough in Mexico. You did have some cell service here and there. Sometimes you could get a call from somebody or a few things. Our radios, we had, high-powered CB radios. They were worthless. I don't know if we just had problems with them or what, but we had horrible communications with our buggy. It was a little rough. The one thing that we had that was cool is we had a satellite texter. So you could basically text, and so they would get out a few messages here and there and kind of try to tell us what's going on. And we had somebody, and we did have sat phones too, but sat phones are really weird. It's hard to call sat phone to sat phone. So we had Chris's brother Paul back in Utah. They would call on the sat phone to Paul, and then Paul would call us and tell us what's going on. So we kind of had like a little dispatch. Anyways, so race starts. They get in the class one. It is Chris with the C and Todd in the class one. They start out the race early. It was early Thursday morning, I believe, like 10:30 or something. So they start cruising. We had worked on the brakes and the steering. We wanted to try to get a little more steering on it the night before. And so they decided to adjust the steering stops on the front. And it's always a bad idea to adjust things the day before the race without testing them. But so they're going there at mile 4 into the race, and we'd never tested the steering with the suspension. Anyways, they had a little bit of a jump, we'll call it, and while they were turning, and so the car's going down as the wheels are turned, and it rips the 2 front brake lines off. So at mile 4, Chris and Todd have no brakes. So they raced 350 miles with no brakes, so pretty crazy. And we didn't even know this at first, we're just watching them and watching their pace, and they kept a 40 they're going 40 to 50, sometimes even faster. You know, I saw them up to 70, 80 with no brakes. So it was pretty crazy, and we didn't even know this. So they get to Fernando and his son and Joe are in Chase 1, our main truck, our main chase truck, and they meet him down at around Coco's Corner. It's like 350 miles in, 350 to 400 miles in, and Joe had been they've been trying to find parts and figure out what they're going to do. They found a few parts. He spent hours rebuilding the calipers. He had to tear them all apart, clean them up, and just fix all the seals and just go through the calipers. Got them all fixed, got the brake lines back on, and we had brakes again. At this point, Brandon and Joe hop in the car. Brandon is driving first. He's had limited time in this thing too, so not a lot of experience driving this car. Same with Joe. The person that had the most experience was Joe, but even he didn't have that much experience driving it. So they start heading out, and they're doing good. They're doing a really good pace. But at this point, because of no brakes, I think Todd and Chris were using the gears a lot, and second gear is starting to go out. I think it still kind of worked, but it was starting to go out. And so they're cruising. We're still making good time. We definitely got slowed down there with the brakes, but they're moving along. And they're just telling me, Brandon's telling me, I asked him the other day, and he's telling me stories about, I said, was it fun? And he said, yeah, it was a riot. They got in a pretty good groove, and they were cruising pretty good, trying to get to 800, trying to get the car up to us, and just keep the race moving after all the problems we already had. There was other things. They had a belt come off. They were having electrical problems. I mean, there's just all kinds of issues. CV axle was giving them problems. So he's cruising along. They're starting to get in a good rhythm. They're passing people. They're bumping a couple of trophy trucks, he told me, and said it was pretty funny. Just pretty crazy, just trying to get past people, and they finally pass a guy, go around a dude a little bit, and end up going right into this big old dirt pit, and dirt clods are flying everywhere, and just punching it through silt, and just hoping that you can get through it, not know where you're going. But he just said it was an awesome experience, and that it was just rad. So they keep cruising. They have a bunch of little issues. They keep fixing them, and then they get to mile marker 640, I think it's around 640, 650, and they blew the CV joint in the buggy. So our CV axle is done. We should have had our Chase 1 vehicle should have been pretty close to the buggy, or the closest to the buggy. It's always supposed to stay with the buggy, but we had problems. Our Chase 2 truck got 2 flat tires. They thought the diff was blown, and so Chase 1 had a trailer, and he decided to go back and leave the buggy and go get Chase 2. So at this point, we get a text saying that we got to hold them on the phone, I think. So yeah, we got to hold them on the phone, and they tell us that they need a CV axle, or a CV, it's not an axle, sorry, a CV joint for the buggy, and Chase 1 is 5 hours away, and we've probably been in the race 32 hours at this point of just hell to try to get it to mile 650, and you have 48 hours to complete it. So Fernando with Chase 1 is on his way. He's on his way to come, but he's 5 hours away. And I asked him, the parts on Chase 1, I asked him if they were new, and he said they weren't, they were used, and he didn't know how good they were going to be even if they got there. So we started asking around. In Loretto, there was actually a brand new AutoZone store. So I went into AutoZone, and I asked this Mexican dude if they had a 934 CV, and he looked at me like I was a moron and started laughing and said, no, no Porsche, no CV. And then he went and talked to his buddy, and he started laughing. And yeah, so basically we started asking all the racers, everybody, if they had any extra parts. But at this point in the race, everybody had passed. You know, we were getting our ass kicked, and we were way behind. All the class ones were probably, I think they were finishing by now, and you know, there just wasn't very many people on the course. There were still some, like your class 11s, your Volkswagens, and there were still some stragglers. There were still a couple. I saw a trophy truck late at night. I saw a bunch of spec trophies and another class one. So there was a few out there, but not much. So I texted Devin from Utah Valley Power Sports. He was down running support for a trophy truck team and a class one, and their class one at like around mile marker 200. I think it was on a dry lake bed. They were hauling ass, and this other competitor in like his Jeep just didn't see them and was coming across the course and just cut right in front of them, and they T-boned him at like 120 miles an hour and flipped the Jeep over the truck, and it was crazy. So their class one was out of the race, and he had sent me pictures and kind of told me what was going on. I was texting him throughout the race. So I texted him, said, do you know anybody, you know, that would have a 934 CV for a class one? You know, there was like 20 class ones in the race. And he's like, yeah, I actually do. And he's down in your area. And he gave me the number of this guy named Don. And he actually told me to tell him that he sent him, but I misread it. So I thought he said to not tell him that he sent him. But anyways, I called up Don. He answered the phone. I just told him that I was a guy from Utah down racing a class one, and we needed a 934 CV and a few other parts, and I just wondered if he by chance had something that I could buy off of him or he could help us out with. And he let me know that he did. He had all the parts that I needed, and he was 15 minutes away from our location, and that he would help us out with anything we needed. And he called his brother, and we went down and met them at their hotel, and they hooked us up with all kinds of parts, and it was like the coolest thing ever. Told us a couple quick stories. They were having all kinds of problems too. They had 2 or 3 chest trucks that were down, and it was a total cluster for them too. So I'm sure these stories are the same for most teams. It's this non-stop war between you and this machine and trying to get to the finish line, and then your support trucks are breaking down, and just physically and emotionally you're done. And it's just an extremely hard challenge, the Baja is. So we get the parts and we head out. We take the trailer with our side-by-sides on our truck. It's me, Randy, Josh, and Chris that were down in Loretto. We hop in and we take off. So we have to drive about 3.5 hours to get to BFG Pit 7, I think it was, and it was at mile marker like 7 or Pit 6, I don't know. It was mile marker like 7:40, 7:45. So we get there. I get a hold of Brandon, the other Brandon that was in the race car, and he sounds like delirious. They've been sleeping and trying to work on the buggy as much as they could while they're just waiting to try to figure out if we could do anything. I asked him if he needs us to come and give him parts, because we didn't know if Fernando would get there first or if we would. He says he hasn't heard from Fernando, and so maybe we should get going. And so we hop on the side-by-side. We take the XRS. It had full navigation. It was kind of better, an air pumper system and comms, and so it was a better setup to run out there. We had to pack 3 roto packs. It was over 200 miles to get there and back. And we had to go backwards on the race course, which was crazy. So we headed out. The first section was a bunch of highway, so it wasn't too big of a deal. And then we hopped on of about 60, 70 miles that were on the race course. And I'll tell you, that was an experience. Luckily, there wasn't too many people on the course at this time, so all your super fast guys were already kind of passed. And so we're backwards on the race course. We're super nervous. We're talking on our comms. And we're passing what looks like to be pits, and a couple of them keep flashing us in, and we just didn't, we were kind of worried and scared, and so we decided to turn around and go in because we thought maybe we were not supposed to, or or whatever. So we pull into this pit, and they like stop us. They got like their stop sign. They pull us all up like professional in their pit. It's a bunch of drunk Mexicans that want Instagram photos and ask if we need any tequila or tacos or gas. And oh my gosh, it was pretty funny. We're just like, guys, we gotta go, man. We gotta get to our truck. But anyways, thanks for everything. So they just were kind of having a party and messing with the racers all night. Anyways, it was funny. So we take off. He told us that there was he only saw a car at this point every 30 to 45 minutes, so the race course wasn't too busy. So we were still super cautious, and we were on a part of the course where we could pop off the road fairly easy, and we just took our time and kept going. So we're hauling butt, trying to get to our class 1. Don't know what's going on. Well, apparently Fernando, he was on the way to. He got the truck stuck. He got Chase 1 stuck up to the doors in sand, but somehow he got them the parts. He got the parts to the buggy, and so at this point Joe was fixing the buggy, and he was working on getting it over to us. So we didn't know this at this point. We're just trying to get to him with our parts, but Fernando had got to him. He got the truck stuck, but somehow he got him the parts, and so he was getting it fixed. And Joe was doing everything he could to get that buggy to us. And Brandon, he decided that he'd had enough, so he stayed behind and worked on Chase 2, worked on handling Chase 2, finding tires and doing a bunch of other things for it. So Chase 1 is stuck in the sand. Chase 2 has 2 blown tires. Joe is now in the buggy and it is moving. We don't know this at this point, but he's moving. So we're still heading out, trying to get him with the parts that we have, and all of a sudden we see this black Class 1 just this roaring down this trail, and I mean he is hauling ass. So we're flashing him, we're trying to get him to stop. I know he sees us, he just doesn't care. I don't know if he recognizes that it's like, his team. But I mean, we're just like doing everything, and he will not stop, and he just blows by us like. Man, he was hauling ass. So he flies by us. Chris, my co-driver, is freaking out because he thinks that if Joe gets to the BFG pit that we just came from before us, that he's just going to fuel up and go and keep running the race. So he's super worried. So we turn around. We're trying to catch back with him. He is gone. I mean, this dude, by the time we turned around the X3, I mean, this guy is... he's almost out of sight. He's just freaking flying. So we had to pull over, fill up with gas with the Rotopacks. So we put 2 Rotopacks in the car, and then we started heading out. And Chris is hauling ass. Now we're going the right way on the race course, and we are just bombing it in the XRS and just trying to get back. We knew that Joe had some speed zones. So you have a Stella device in your Class 1, and it has GPS, and if you go over, like I think there were 37 mile an hour speed zones, and if you go over that speed zone, it flashes at you, and you'll get a penalty, and you'll get penalized in the race. So you gotta slow down at these speed zones. So we knew that Joe had a couple sections of speed zones, and we don't have a Stella. And these little towns, there's nobody out there right now. It's in the middle of the night, and so we were able to catch up a little bit in the speed zones. The Class 1 was killing us. I mean, it was so fast. There's no way to keep up with it with the X3. It did good, but the Class 1 is freaking fast. So yeah, he had these speed zones, so we were able, in the speed zones he's going 37, we were able to fly at like 75 or whatever, and try to catch up to him. We heard later actually on the drive home that one of our friends was watching like the score highlights that night, and it said like highlight of the hour, and it said Joe Sim in the 101 car is back up and going, and he's at 122 miles an hour. So Joe got in that car and he was just ripping in this thing, and so doesn't surprise me one bit. He's a very talented driver. He's done a lot of road car racing, and I just know him. He's in the car by himself, and he just wants to get it to us, and you're thinking about all your teammates and all the stuff they've gone through and what everybody's done to get ready, and you're trying to make sure everybody gets a chance in the thing, and just he wanted to get it to us. He was done. He'd been up for 3 days straight, and just worn out, but he was determined, and so he was flying. So anyways, we catch up a little bit in the speed zones. We get there about 15-20 minutes behind him, and they had kind of got the truck ready and prepped. We kept trying to get people on the radio. Man, those radios, we could not get our radios to work. Something must have been wrong. But anyways, we couldn't get crap to work. But so we get there. I'm talking to him. He's eating some food. He looks like he's just been through hell. And I was like, dude, you were flying. And he's like, yeah, bro, I was hamming it. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I was hamming it. I'm like, what are you talking about? What's hamming it? And he's like, hard as a motherfucker. And so that was a term that I had not heard before. And it was pretty funny. It was a funny moment, but he was driving it fast, and he really wanted to get us to it, and it was pretty cool. So we hop in the class 1. At this point, there is no second gear. Front shocks are blown, maybe the rear shocks too, but the front shocks are totally blown. They've had electrical problems, they've had light problems. We had one battery that went out, so we were worried about it. Not starting back up or having more problems there. But we get in and we just decide that, we're going to take care of this car and try to get it to the finish line. So we take off from mile 745. Our first section was like a speed zone. And me and Chris are talking on your comms. It's pretty crazy. And you're in this buggy, and it's just like you and your friend, and you just got your comms, and all you got is just each other, and you're just trying to get this machine to the finish line, and it's a pretty cool experience, pretty intense. And so the co-driver, you're watching the nav, and you're telling him what's coming up. Every 500 feet, I'd be like, you've got a left 5, and then straight for about a mile, right 6. There's a danger, 500 feet ahead. Keep your eye out, and just kind of telling him what's going on, and he's keeping his eyes straight on the road and driving that buggy and just trying to do the best he can and concentrate and miss and stuff and keeping it going at a decent pace. We were doing about a 50 to 60 mile pace. Definitely not going as hard as we could, but we were just trying to take care of this thing. It was tired. Oh yeah, the CV is still going out. Even though this UCV we put in, it was still just clicking, and it was a piece of crap too. So, but anyways, it was still working. It was making a lot of noise when you'd come off throttle, so we were trying to keep a little bit of pressure on it, come off throttle real easy, just to kind of nurse the CV. We had to run in third gear, and so we were using the torque converter. It's a manual transmission. I think it was a 5-speed manual transmission, but it has a torque converter, so you have no clutch. You just shift the gear, and it's kind of like an automatic clutch. And so we didn't realize it, but we were putting a little extra pressure on the torque converter because we were just running in third. And so there was times we should have been in second, but second was blown. So we were running in third, and so we were heating up the torque converter and the fluid a little more than we should have. But which is funny because we thought we were totally babying it and taking good care of it. But anyways, at this point, we got handed a car that was on its last leg. It needed some work, but it was still moving, and we were going to keep trying to finish. So yeah, we take off, got into a pretty good rhythm. It was really starting to be fun. I was getting sick. You're trying to read navigation while watching the road while not having control of the buggy. So I was getting a little sick, but I was starting to get over it, and I was just, telling Chris the instructions, and he was driving great, and we were just cruising. So we were getting this rhythm, 50, 60 miles an hour. Definitely just not going hard, We didn't want to risk breaking it, so a medium pace to try to finish. Things were going good. We were covering some decent ground. We came up on like the silt bed section, and man, it was different from when we pre-run the day before. It was just rutted out and just way worse, and just was crazy. We were starting to catch up with people. We did pass a class 11, which was pretty fun. Actually, used our horn and our sirens and stuff, and passed them. And then it just, people are just stuck everywhere. We're having to go around. You can't see going through these little trees and bushes and cactus area. And you got to be on throttle. And honestly, you needed second gear. You know, a lot of this stuff was a second gear stuff, and we had no second gear, so it was a little tough. So it was either first or third going through these areas, and we got through a couple of the sill bed areas, the harder areas, and then we ended up getting to a place where just a ton of people were stuck, and we tried to go around, and the sand was super deep, so the back end was kind of low, and so the front, you just had no weight on your front tires, and it would not turn left, and it would not turn right, and then he tried to like give it gas, and we just went right into this bush, and it brought us to a stop. We tried to go over it. He tried to do everything he could, honestly, and we got stuck. Well, when they had got the parts to the Class 1 back at 650, they gave Fernando the silt boards and the shovels. So the tooth, we have a 4,500 pound car, and the only way to get it out is with silt boards and shovels, and or have somebody tow you out. Anyways, we're stuck in the silt. We go back and forth a couple times. It just gets buried worse, and we really have nothing to get it out with. So the transmission fluid was leaking. Got out, looked at that. I started working on that. We got this hose. This hose had come off. We got this hose fixed, and you know, we were screwed. There was Class 11s all around us that were stuck too. So I told Chris, let's just start helping out these other guys, and you know, maybe we'll get some help and get pulled out here in a bit, and hopefully things will be good. So we start helping them out, and luckily one of the guys that was helping was chasing for the Class 11s, said that after he got out some of the Class 11s that he was working for, he would come and pull us out. And he did, and it was awesome. So he got us out, but we were having problems with the tranny, so the torque converter was pretty much done. We were hoping that maybe if he decided he would toast at the gas station in Loretto, because we were actually really close to Loretto now, and we were hoping that if we got fluid that it would work again, but we burned it up. So we burned up the torque converter, and that was catastrophic failure. That was something that we could not fix on the trail, and at this point we were at like 40 hours of the race. So we had to call it. It was hard to do, but it was super hard to do. Actually, it was pretty emotional, just knowing what everybody went through to get there. But so yeah, we called it, and we did everything we could to keep her going. And honestly, we could have called it way before this point, but everybody did an awesome job. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. It was just crazy, hard, challenging. You know, it wasn't like a vacation, man. It was work. Everybody did so much, but I think that's what makes it special, is that you just go and you just get your ass kicked for these 3 days, it's actually 10 days. But you just get your butt worked and do so much driving, and it's just hard. But man, everything seems easy after that race. You come home and it's just like you don't got problems anymore. So it was a cool experience. If anybody gets a chance to do the Baja, do it. It's amazing, man. It's amazing. It was just tough, and all the stories you have, and it was just so much fun. The pre-run was fun. In the Class 1 and in the X-Series was just amazing, and just all the stories and the people you met, and just having to MacGyver things and figure out stuff on the fly and just make stuff work. It was fun. It was just a super fun challenge. But anyways, guys, that's our Baja race. Then we had to drive another 2,000 miles home. So on the worst roads in the world, we got the chase trucks all fixed and pulled out, and got them back to Ensenada, and then got home. But it was fun. So yeah, that's our Baja trip. Here's the footage I have. This is the footage that I have, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And Yeah, please like and subscribe. All right, thanks, guys.